this episode we'll be catching up with Beardow as he prepares for the new season. We'll also be talking to Clare Humberstone, who is a combat centre specialist lead for Australian Institute of Sport. And then we're going to talk about nutrition. We'll be hearing from Mehran Shodas about being more strategic about making the weight, and be getting a special insight from featherweight prospect Jordan Gill about his approach to making weight. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 8 of Boxing Science TV. It's been really busy at Boxing Science lately. At the weekend we had Anthony Fowler make his third professional fight in his hometown of Liverpool. He's been training really hard for the last 10 weeks. We've been able to push him a little bit more on his strength and his conditioning work. We've been able to get some fantastic results, including like improving his anaerobic system, a 10% increase in his lower body impulse and speed. So these fantastic results paid off in the ring, where he was able to stop Jay Byrne, who hadn't been stopped before and had a winning record, and do that in his third fight. Anthony's really pleased with his results. Also, we're preparing Jordan for his return to the ring on 13th of October. He'll be in another 6-rounder, this time at Derby. So this week we've been manipulating his training loads, more working on speed, working on light weights, and trying to move them as fast as we can. Also, it's busy times down at Sheffield City ABC, as they have the new influx of student boxers, a lot of youngsters taking up boxing for the first time as well. I walked into the gym on Monday and it was absolutely packed, so it was great to see the club thriving. They're just a few weeks away from their home show on 27th of October, and that's at Sheffield Works and Social Club. So we're buzzing for that. And one boxer in particular that we've caught up with this week, Beardow, who'll be making his first appearance of the season. And we caught up with him just after a grueling strength conditioning session down at Boxing Science.
Just under 5 weeks out now. Just finished an S&C session. Just done some last week on my loading, so trying to put as much weight as I can, getting strong. Just finished a session on curve with 1 minute on, 30 seconds off, 3 times, and then 3 sets of that. It's been a killer. These are just sort of grinding, getting more time on it and getting my conditioning improving. Not particularly looking at high speeds, just physically keeping my averages up all the way through. And you can tell when I'm not in shape, and I might throw a couple of shots and I might have to take one to give one back. That second go and that second phase of attack I sometimes struggle with coming to later rounds, and putting it on a curve, you know you've done the work in there. I mean, you just tell if your shots flow much better and you're able to go, especially in the later rounds, push it on and keep that intensity of what you started with. And then loading, just getting strong really, so probably like partial movements, so if I'm doing trap bar, I'm doing it from blocks, so I can put a bit more weight on. As well as like Anderson squats, do it from a depth, only probably like 3/4 of my depth and driving up, and allowing to put on 20 to 30 kilos extra than my normal squat.
Yeah, and you got a bit of feedback today? Everything going in the right direction?
Yeah, got some feedback put on. I put on a kickback nearly 2 kilos trunk mass since this time last year, so that's a good improvement. My hand speed on my landman punches is faster, much quicker, also slightly stronger as well, but still just carrying a bit of weight, but that'll soon come off, come 5 days.
So you've just been to Vegas, how was that?
Yeah, very good, motivational should I say. Yeah, been good, it's been a tough week coming back after last week obviously, done a bit of training while out in Vegas, but obviously you're only limited to leisure gym, but tried to keep on it. This week's been hard, but yeah, really impressive. Saw the Canelo Golovkin weigh, a really good atmosphere, but unfortunately missed the fight. But as I was flying home, the fight was on, so I had to keep off Facebook and watch it the next day.
So you got a bit of taste of the big time then?
Yeah, massive. I mean, the atmosphere was incredible, and they're about, MGM were pretty much packed out, so I think it holds about 15,000, so they were probably 10 or 12 when it's 8,000 or 9,000 were all Mexicans with mariachi band and sombreros and drums. Quality atmosphere, really good.
How does that motivate you for your long-term career?
I mean, when I went box for world titles or coming up to it, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good selling out places in England and small cities, but that's what every boxer dreams of. Going to Vegas and winning a world title against him. It's in front of everybody's eyes on a box office night.
You got to go to the UFC Performance Institute.
Yeah.
How was that?
Went to meet Duncan French. Went to meet him, one of the lead S&C coaches down at UFC headquarters, and that was really amazing, probably the best facility I've seen. Took us round, strength and conditioning gym, rehabilitation centre, plunge pools, underwater treadmills, heat pools, cryotherapy chambers, press conference or players lounge, and things I think called sleeping pods that I never even knew existed. All for any fighter who's contracted to the UFC can go and train out there and using me. It's unbelievable facilities. Best I've seen. Really good.
It's great hearing from Callum there, catching up with him, and he'll be in action on Friday the 27th of October. The next part of our special feature, Alan Ruddock talks to Clare Humberstone from the Australian Institute of Sport. It's pretty similar to the EIS and the Team GB model. However, she's a specialist lead for the Combat Centre, which looks after the 4 combat Olympic sports, which includes judo, taekwondo, wrestling, and of course amateur boxing. She was over here with some athletes. She popped by Sheffield University to meet up with myself and Alan. She very kindly offered some time to speak in front of the camera about what her role includes at the Combat Centre.
Mostly with boxing, judo and taekwondo, and my job and our group, the Combat Centre's job, is to work with the national teams and the national coaches for each of those sports, and to basically try and help accessorise all their core training with things like strength and conditioning, good practices in strength and conditioning, good practices in weight management, good practices in medical management and injury management, stuff like that. So I kind of try and build teams of support for physio, dietitians, S&C, physiology around, and psychology and things like that around those national programs.
Yeah. And so what are some of the challenges then with having a kind of a mix between a bit of a centralised programme approach and then having athletes travel to their clubs and homes, pretty much all around Australia? What challenges that present?
So for those sports, because they're quite small sports in Australia, mostly they're decentralised programs. So there's actually one small portion of the boxing program that has a centralised bit with a few athletes at the moment, but everything else is the athletes train in their clubs, their home clubs all around Australia all the time, and then they'll come together for tours or for training camps at the ARS where I work, and that's kind of the camps are the really intense time where we can have a lot of input. The biggest challenge that we have is the fact that it's decentralised and the fact that a lot of those athletes, when they're back in their home environment, all they're working with is their technical coach, and if they personally pursued it or if their coach has personally pursued it, they may have a consistent physio they go to, or they may have a consistent strength and conditioning coach they work with, but that's not really something we can control, and we don't have any resources to offer there unless they've reached a level where they're like a podium level athlete at a senior level already. They will get some support from their local institute. The biggest challenge we have is that we don't have that continuity of support for them.
Yeah, so when they are in the environment with you at the Combat Centre, what kind of things are you trying to educate them into the importance of sports science and the input from the several different disciplines that you try and integrate within the programme?
Well, at the ARS, we have access where we can. We have really good relationships with all the different departments there, so I can talk to the physio department and talk about treatment for people on camp, or an education portion, or the same for all the other departments. So what we do is when we're planning the camps, we talk to my role is to kind of talk to the coaches for the camp and say, for this age group, for this group you've got in, what are either some of the group's educational needs that you want to focus on this camp, or what are the key needs of your key athletes who will come to this camp, and let's make sure we basically provide a talk or like an immersive educational experience or appointments for someone to see a dietitian because they need to see a dietitian or they need to see a psychologist or something. So that's how we do it, is we try and work around the coaches, and the most popular things are dietitian support, because making weight is a massive issue for all of these sports, and that's part of the reason we've combined these sports together, because they have commonalities. And physio support, because for the camp, just so people can get through the camp and they can train really well for a week or a 2-week period without being limited by being off the mat or out the ring.
So would you say that nutritional support and perhaps physio support outside of the programme is two key areas that boxers should maybe tap into?
Definitely. I think, the personal coach, the home technical boxing coach, is generally really obviously a technical expert in their boxing coaching, and more often than not they've got a pretty good idea of the strength and conditioning that goes on in boxing. I mean, it's probably room for improvement, and some people are more interested in conditioning than others, but generally you'd get an athlete just working with their home coach who's probably reasonable at those two things. Where they need the expert support from someone specialist is a really good sports physio can make a massive difference to recovery rates from injuries, rather than them just putting up with an injury that they could have nipped in the bud right at the beginning. So that's one massive thing. And the other thing that really undoes that, all that preparation and performance, is if they have a terrible making weight program, you can just undo all those really good 12, 15 weeks of training. And a really good sports dietitian can understand, doesn't just give you generic advice, actually gives advice about combat sport athletes and everything. And something we found is that in Australia, there haven't been that many dietitians or sports dietitians who've got the knowledge to work with combat sport athletes. So combat sport athletes will come to a training camp and they'll have a generic talk by a sports dietitian who's a very good sports dietitian, hasn't really worked with combat sport athletes, and the advice they give is just too conservative for them, and the athletes listen to it and they're like, they don't know boxing, they don't know judo, they're telling me that I should only lose 2% of my body weight or whatever, that's ridiculous, I routinely lose 6% or whatever, that's fine. So we've tried to build a community of dietitians who really know combat sports and have experience, and that's been key for us. So we've worked with a couple of young dietitians who've actually combat sport athletes themselves, so they've got that credibility with the athletes, they know what they're talking about, and they're a good sports dietitian as well. So we're trying to build that community of combat sport dietitians rather than just sports dietitians, because then they get much better information.
It's great hearing from Clare there. Alan actually talked to Clare for around about 15-16 minutes in front of the camera, and we've uploaded the full video on YouTube for you to watch as well, so to give you even greater insight to what her role is at the Australian Institute of Sport. I just wanted to finish on that note there about nutrition and nutrition for combat sports, and there's a lot of emphasis on making weight in boxing. Obviously we're wanting to be as big and as lean at that weight as possible, and this can lead some really bad misconceptions on the best way to do it. The main thing that boxers need to change is probably their nutrition, and we're getting better at it because there's more nutritionists come to fruition, but people are still making mistakes on how they make the weight, how they fuel for sparring sessions, the recovery as well. Many boxers that I've come across actually undereating rather than overeating, which you'd think that's a massive issue. Not getting enough calories and getting the deficit right, and we're not being able to fuel for our sessions effectively, might end up breaking down within camp and not losing as much weight by not eating enough food. So nutrition's a massive area for us to talk about. So we just decided to take a little clip of Mehran Chordas, who did a fantastic presentation for the Combat Conditioning Conference, and taking the slide of how he breaks down making the weight, where we lose it from muscle, from fat, from glycogen, from water, and he explains more how you should be measuring and structuring where you're going to be losing the weight. And also, we're going to be talking to Jordan Gill to get an insight to how he approaches to having an effective diet for making weight.
On to making weight. First of all, it's really important that you get measured. So for an 80 kilogram boxer, you need to know how much of that is muscle mass, how much of that is fat mass, and so on and so forth. So it's really important to get your body fat measured, and it's important that you get it measured using reliable and valid tools. And there's a lot of practitioners out there who can do this using either skinfold calipers, or you can have other devices, some are more accurate than others, and just make sure you get some specialist advice on getting your body fat measured. So using skinfolds gives you a good estimation of where your body fat is. And then instead of looking at it and saying, right, I need to lose 6 or 7 kilograms, if you break that down, so for example, you've got 1.5 kilograms of muscle glycogen. So for some people, if your muscle glycogen stores are very high and you've eaten a high carbohydrate diet, that could be upwards of 2 kilograms. So you can manipulate muscle glycogen by manipulating your carbohydrate intake, and you can lose up to 1.5 kilograms. You can manipulate your hydration, and I've capped this at around 1.5 kilos. For some people it might be up to 2 kilos, but you can have play around with dehydration a little bit as long as it's capped at about 1 to 2% of body mass. And then something that most people don't realise is that we carry about 1 kilogram of gut mass. Now, depending on the types of foods that we eat, if we eat a very high fibre diet, then you might be carrying a lot of extra gut mass. And you can follow something called low residue diets, and low residue diets actually reduce some of this gut mass, and you can lose up to 1 kilo doing that. I've had some boxers lose up to 1 to 2 kilos just by having things like chronic irrigation to get rid of excess gut waste as well. So that's something else that you can play with. And then you might want to lose a little bit of muscle mass, because you can't lose fat mass without sacrificing a little bit of muscle mass, depending on what you're doing. But if your body fat percentage is lower, then you might have to sacrifice more muscle mass if you're a very lean athlete. But usually that you want to try and minimise the loss of muscle tissue. And then you can see that most of the mass needed to lose for this athlete is fat at 6.5 kilograms, which gives you a total of 11.5 kilograms to play with for an 80 kilogram athlete if he's got to get down to under 70 kilos. So it gives you an idea of how to manipulate body composition rather than looking at it at just losing fat. There's different components that you need to lose.
So yeah, one of the key philosophies that we've got at Boxing Science is that we try and assess and measure as many things as we can, whether that's weight lifted, rep lifted, the speed at which you're lifting something, the speed at which you're running. Assessment's really important so that we can manipulate day to day, but we can also make changes in session to session, and that's a really important concept as well from a psychological point of view. And often I think that integration between physiology and nutrition and psychology is not really spoken about very much. It's not really brought to the forefront, but boxers and their relationship with food is complex, and so they have a really important role in psychology as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if we just go back a few slides from when I talked about the different weight that you had to lose. So on here, you can see very clearly that unless you measure, you won't know what these components are, and everybody's different. So the measurements actually help fine-tune that person, and I think sometimes it might work on paper, but it doesn't always work in practice, and the fine-tuning process allows you to basically keep on top of it.
Absolutely.
For me, I don't like doing too much in the final week. I feel like you can't get much fitter than you already are, because if you put 100% into your training camp or the training that you're going to be doing for that fight, then there's not that much to gain. Realistically, you want to be doing as little as possible, but making sure your tools are sharp, making sure you sharpen up on the pads, maybe do a few quick sprints. But other than that, I wouldn't really recommend training. The only people that sort of train and slog it out fight week are people that have got huge weights to cut. And from the experience that I've got and the nutritionists that I've worked with, it's a better idea to, if you're going to cut weight, cut the water weight closest to the fight. so you're dehydrated for the smallest amount of possible time.
So just before the Q&A, we stuck in some salad.
Some salad.
Yeah. What does your daily diet look like?
It's just I try and eat as healthy as possible. Most boxers do, I guess. I get a lot of questions about diets and nutrition, and for me it's hard for me. I'm always on the go, and it'd be easier to go on when I'm in the car, drive through McDonald's and get a few chicken selects or chips or whatever it is. And but you gotta. For me, it's easy for me to be flexible. I have to be flexible because I'm always on the go. But there's always good food available. I mean, you've got good health food shops everywhere. Got a place like Humberstone give you good supplements, and even like if you're in a shopping centre, it's hard to find good food in a shopping centre. But like Meadowhall, there's M&S Food Court, or there's Pret a Manger that do like a small salad. And I just try and eat healthy as possible. And if you can keep your weight good, keep your body fat low, then you'll be able to fuel yourself for sessions, and that's the key.
Yeah, so kind of making weight is a massive issue in boxing. People like kind of focus on that more, and not in really like kind of refueling and recovering as well.
Yeah, see a lot of people cut too much and take too much out of their body and put in extra sessions just to burn weight off. And I've never put in an extra session just because I've eaten a bit too much and need to go on a run, because it's just pointless, because you're just taking what you're giving yourself one way, you're taking it away another. And I think if you get the balance right, obviously it's hard, but it's all about discipline. And if you've got something in front of you, it's easy to discipline yourself. It's harder to discipline yourself when you're not on a fight, and there is a lot more temptation. We're all human. We all need little cravings and need to have little treats here and there, but it's a time and a place for it. I think if you have to keep that mindset, it's a time and a place to be disciplined and not so disciplined and have treats, then it's the way forward.
So there's some great insights. One from a very well-renowned nutritionist that's been working with elite athletes for many, many years, and one from a professional athlete that's had to basically make the weight, have to stick to a diet and having to lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time. So some great insights there. Like I say, nutrition's a massive, massive area. The key messages that I've got from that is take measurements, because if you're not assessing, you're guessing. So you want to be seeing how much body fat you got to lose, whether you need to lose any muscle mass, how much water do you hold, and how much water can you lose. So if obviously this is quite hard and you need an expert to help you achieve these, there's plenty of nutritionists coming out of university that are looking for some experience. Obviously there's nutritionists that you'll have to pay money for as well. I'd be looking to try and get those measurements so you can have a structured plan. So the second message that I got from that is to make sure that you have a plan, whether that's a month by month, week by week, or day by day basis. So first of all, take the measurements of your body fat, your muscle mass, and actually plan, right, I'm going to lose 2 kilos of fat. I'm going to do 5 or 6 pounds worth through water manipulation on fight week. And then week by week, are you going to have a heavy week? Boxing Science will do 3-to-1 loading, so we know when the heavy weeks are going to come. And that's followed up by deload week. You'll be planning to have a lot of calories in the heavy week, and then in the deload week, if you're having the same amount of calories, you can end up putting weight on. So you have to have high weeks and low weeks within camp, and you being quite close to the weight will help that more. At Boxing Science, we've had a few different issues where a boxer's put on too much weight in between camp. A lot of you can empathise with this. Basically, what that does is restricts the amount of stuff that we can do. So we're talking about these 3-to-1 loading. On the heavy weeks, you probably won't be able to carb up as much or have as much calories in there. It still might have to be a low week because you're still having to lose that body mass. This will limit the amount of load that we can put you under, which will reduce the amount of adaptations that can be made in camp. So another key area is to try and maintain your weight to a certain level in between camps. You know, don't go out and have a massive binge. Try and keep your weight down so then your nutrition can be more flexible and be more fueled towards your performance. And as well, having a plan day by day, you know, having heavy days and light days, and making sure that you're fueling up for your big sessions, making sure you're getting a good recovery after. Nutrient timing is massive. You know, a calorie isn't just a calorie. You need to make sure that you're having the right foods at the right times to make sure that you're fueling for your performance, making sure you're getting the adequate recovery as well. Also, a good point from Jordan, you know, trying to be committed and disciplined to your nutrition plan. It's going to be quite hard, so have some leeway as well. So, you know, have like a little bit of higher carb days, and having a little treat here and there isn't too bad, and it kind of satisfies those cravings. But that can only be achieved if you're having that proper plan. If you're coming into a fight camp not too heavy and not put on too much fat mass as well. Being committed and disciplined is really important, but having some leeway will make that a little bit easier as well. That concludes episode 8 of Boxing Science TV. Thank you very much for watching and listening. If you have any questions regarding the topics that we've covered in this episode, you can just leave a comment below this video, or you can email us at boxing.site@gmail.com, and we're also contactable through our Instagram and our Facebook pages. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and share the video so you can spread the word of Boxing Science TV.